Hello and welcome to The Big Picture. After having taken the entire country and most of the analysts and political observers by surprise by winning seats beyond most people's imagination, Aam Aadmi Party government has completed 1 month in power in Delhi. These last 30 days has witnessed much drama and action, with the party dominating the media almost in an unprecedented manner for a government of a small state like Delhi. Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, who has virtually dared the Congress almost every day of these 30 days to withdraw support, has been, to say the least, an unlikely politician and a more unlikely chief minister. His and his unusual ways has also earned them both well-wishers and supporters by the lakhs, not just in Delhi but across the country and even abroad, even as the same ways have created a significant number of detractors and disappointed supporters. Today we will look at the 30 days of the Aam Aadmi Party government in Delhi, what it has been able to achieve, both in material and political terms, as well as the fault lines which can cause problems for it in the future. To discuss this, I have with me Professor Pushpesh Pant, a former professor at JNU and a political analyst; Shailaja, Chandra, former Chief Secretary, Government of Delhi; George Mathew, a sociologist and chairman of the Institute of Social Sciences; Vinod Sharma, political editor, Hindustan Times. And representing the Aam Aadmi Party is Nisha Singh. Welcome to all of you. Professor Pushpesh Pant, I would like to come to you first. You know, it was said when this government came to, there was a lot of excitement and things like that. 30 days time, somehow the party seems to have created a lot of detractors also, apart from creating a lot of supporters.
I wouldn't agree to that proposition at all. I think this is one of those reactions where people can say, my gut feeling is that they have lost a lot of support, they have lots of detractors. I think 1 month may be a very long time in politics.
Yes.
But in the history of Indian democracy, and
for any government, is 1 month, 1 month's time is too short a honeymoon.
No, I'm not talking of honeymoons at all. The honeymoons, we talk about marriages which are arranged or love marriages. If there's a marriage of convenience, and if it is a live-in relationship, not even a marriage, what honeymoon are we talking about? Is the kind of the shotgun barrel marriage one could have talked about. But Congress and Aam Aadmi Party are cohabiting each other, is a live-in relationship at the most. So I don't think that we should get into the honeymoon metaphor at all. The other thing which I would really like to point out is, I think that Delhi government is not actually like any other government in this country. If you are trying to assess what they have done in a month, let's recognize that they don't have police under their control, they don't have DD under their control, they do not have the urban housing ministry under their control, the lieutenant governor reports directly to the home ministry, and many of the problems which Shailaja would know much better hinge on this one. So even if their what the president calls populist anarchy has focused attention on the incongruities and contradictions of the Delhi state, I think is a major service to the people. And if people say that is it dignified, I think the concepts of dignity and concept of propriety, which we have inherited from the British colonial times, and the ideas of constitutionality, if you take an oath to protect the constitution, then by that logic, if you extend it a little more to absurdity, there should be no amendments to constitution either.
I mean, it's pretty obvious that you're pretty happy with this government. And you're a supporter of this government.
I'm not happy, neither am I a supporter. Okay. But I think double standards should not be applied.
Should not be. Shailaja, Chandra, there's a lot of the chief minister has claimed in the last 24 hours and more that the amount of achievements that his government has in its pocket as of today, no other government has had. Would you agree with that? Do you think that there has been any significant achievement this government has made which was going to have a long-term impact on the people of Delhi?
It is for the people of Delhi to respond to this, and the people of Delhi are really, when you get news reports which are unbiased, when you get people who know what is happening on the ground, when you get a little feedback from officers, that is the way you come to know,
right.
And mainly through an announcement of policies.
Right.
I think that this government, with all good intentions, is much more interested in directly implementing without a policy in mind. In the government, every department has something like 20 sub-departments. You have to pick up 1 or 2 and make a mark over there. I don't see that kind of a policy direction. I see some sort of a thing where you have a large electorate which has voted you. How do you make them feel you're working for them? You make them feel that you're working for them by taking up cudgels on their behalf. That seems to be one of the ways that they are managing it. Number 2, to to bring out the frustration, the anger, the exasperation that the people have felt, to bring it on the road and let them know that we represent your anger and we are for you.
Some people call it gimmicks.
Well, if that is at the back of their mind, well, the way they speak with great amount of, I would say, sincerity, what they speak on television.
Do you buy that sincerity?
I'm unable to, for the following reason, that maybe I have worked with too many governments in Delhi and in other union territories before they, I mean, even we administer Arunachal Pradesh, we used to administer Manipur also, Goa, and I've worked in Manipur, Goa, and even in Nicobar Islands, which is of course, and Delhi. So I know what happens when a government takes over. The work is usually determined by what is the minister interested in as a priority other than what comes from below. Unless you give that direction to the bureaucrat, announcements alone will not lead to sustainable implementable
So you
outcomes.
think that those directions to the bureaucrat is lacking in this
I
case?
don't see any direction to change systems, to change processes, to make things easier for the public. What I see is some sort of a zeal to fulfill the promises made in the manifesto, and I think there must be great sincerity behind that. But to do that, you need a process which will last. You cannot make an announcement by sitting on a chair.
Nisha Singh, you heard both my panelists here. You think that the Aam Aadmi government is one of the charges against it is that it's playing to the gallery. It just wants to attract attention. Media's attention is what it is trying to grab, and it is not as Shailaja Chandra, somebody who has worked with the government, who knows what working a government means, feels that the sincerity, whatever is seen to be is being shown, is not really sincere.
I picked up two things from ma'am, which I want to comment on, and also, what you just said. She mentioned that, policy decisions are the ones that go a long way to bring change and lasting change.
Right.
So I would like to tell you that two of the most looked forward to policy decisions, which is the Jan Lokpal bill and the Swaraj bill, which is almost finalized and is being fine-tuned at this point, is going to be introduced in the next 2 weeks. These, I'm sure you will admit, will bring the kind of systemic changes that ma'am just talked about. Talking about the decisions that we have already taken or the steps that have been taken, these were steps that you will appreciate we were voted on by the people of Delhi. So this is what the people of Delhi wanted. These were items in our manifesto, and with all earnestness and sincerity, we have gone ahead and taken the steps that needed to be taken.
Okay. George Mathew, you think that
Yes.
this some of the things which they attempted, and there was, like, for instance, the Janta Darbar which he tried to hold, it was a fiasco. Then that Dharna on the streets, then the Somnath Bharti episode. You think all these have resulted in the party about which there was huge hopes in Delhi? Do you think any of those hopes have got dented?
I don't think so. The hopes are still alive because the party came to power in the last 30 days or so, and they had a very limited time. At that time, they were giving a message to the people, and that message is the message of the people, that we want to work for you. And there are systems which are against it, but we are for it. And that kind of a determined action and a mission I could see in these actions. But some of these things they could have done it in a little more modest way, fitting into the system and the structure of governance. But governance structure has to be respected. But there sometimes they have, because of their enthusiasm, gone beyond that. That has to be restrained and constrained.
Okay, Vinod, is it just over enthusiasm which has made them do all these things, or you think that there is a deeper malaise in the way they function?
With apologies and with all due respect to the Cuban Revolution, I think that Mr. Arvind Kejriwal is trying to show himself as a revolutionary.
About that, they don't make any boards, because if you see their website, it's called a revolution.
No, boss. I mean, they are trying to show themselves as Che Guevaras, and their opponents, especially the BJP, is trying to show themselves as Regis Debray. That's the contradiction. And frankly, on the ground, leave aside the elite, the very, very self-righteous Indian elite, which is a snob basically. The people below poverty line, slightly above poverty line, and vast section of the middle class are still besotted. I mean, their support base has expanded amongst these sections. While the self-styled intellectuals, and I must say at the same time that I have been a trenchant critic of Arvind Kejriwal, I still am on many issues. But let's get the fundamentals right. Whatever he is doing, there is a plan to it. The plan perhaps is not to serve as much the people of Delhi today as his party interests in the run-up to the 2014 elections. He is running a government and an election campaign at the same time. And that is why you see some of the contradictions surfacing. Now, these contradictions...
What are these contradictions?
Now, these contradictions are a fellow who has taken oath under the Constitution, sits on a dharna. It's a first or a new thing. Dharnas have happened.
Chief ministers have started dharna in Delhi.
Ajay Mukherjee sat on a dharna.
Very
Congress.
In the recent history, we have seen many.
No. Ajay Mukherjee is the closest comparison because he sat on a dharna on a police issue. The police which used to report into him. But the court said, look, you can't be giving orders to the police not to act against trade unions. So that was the contradiction. Here, the police does not report into him, and he sat on a dharna. He is doing the politics of rage. Politics of rage. And he's making symbols of police which is at the receiving end of most of the public flack. No disciplinary authority anywhere in the world, Girish, is popular. Police is the most unpopular. So he picked on the police to exacerbate that rage, to add to that rage, and to show himself as a rebel. I won't use the word again, which I used from the Cuban Revolution. But I want to tell you that we'll have to see whether he is finally perceived as Che Guevara or a Regis Debray by the people of Delhi.
So, Professor Pant, contradictions. Do you see contradictions in his behavior as he says? Do you see that?
No, I don't see.
No. One more thing is what I asked Vinod also. Is there a deeper malaise in the functioning of the Aam Aadmi Party and how they are going about things?
I don't see the malaise. I don't see the contradictions in Arvind Kejriwal's conduct. I think Vinod is making some very brilliant points that he wants to have his cake, eat it too, and crumbs better remain with him. But there is no contradiction in that. There is a method in his madness. This one.
Call it madness?
No, I don't call it madness. I was quoting the poor man Shakespeare. I mean, but he's not indecisive like Hamlet. Forget about that. I think the problem is that we are worried about the malaise in a party. We seem to forget that when Arvind Kejriwal was advised by Comrade Sibal and the rest to form a political party and come into the fray, his political party will probably display same kinds of contradictions, same kinds of malaise, same kinds of inner polls fighting, etc., and even ministerial misconduct of the Somnath variety. If you join in as a party politician in contemporary Indian democratic battle of power, I don't see anything wrong there. I see contradictions in Congress party, in Communist party Marxist, in Samajwadi party. Fair enough. If there is a mass base which is increasing with each passing day, you would have all kinds of people for different reasons joining in the party. And I don't think that Arvind Kejriwal or anybody has a foolproof sieve or a filter.
Do you agree? Another point. Do you agree with Vinod that he's actually playing for the 2014 Lok Sabha elections in mind more than the governing
I see nothing wrong in that at all, because I think the game plan was never to capture, or they never in the wildest imagination imagined that they would form a government here.
Right.
It is just an accident which has happened happily along the way. I think the problem is that when they talked of, when he was part of the Anna Hazare movement, they were talking in terms of changing the political system. So you have a political party, now you want to hold them to ransom, saying that, hey, you are the idealist, you should not behave like this at all. But once they are a political party, they will behave like a animal which is called the political party.
Are they behaving like a political party? That is the question.
So Girish, for instance, he has.
Because the charge against them is that they are doing things so many things so unconventionally that the people who believe in the political structures and parties which we have been used to, people are feeling very uncomfortable.
Look, may I tell you one thing? BJP pejoratively refers to him as Mr. U-turn, and they say, when we sit in the three-wheeler now, and if we have to ask them to take a U-turn, we say, Kejriwal lena. But may I say one thing? That, of course, you can accuse him of that he sat on a dharna near the Rail Bhavan, and thereafter he attended the Republic Day parade in the VIP enclosure after having stated that he'd sit amongst the common people, and then was there at the Republic Day do of the president as well. It's a good thing. You see, he should understand one thing. He perhaps, I don't know whether he understands the word anarchism or not. Anarchism has a historicity to it.
Yes.
And then, may I say one thing, that
it doesn't even have a negative.
No, it doesn't have you see, an anarchist is somebody who's against institutions that bank on hierarchy.
Absolutely.
Anarchists are against any kind of concentration of power. They want everybody to be equal, and they want everybody to have parity in the system. That is fine. If he wants to call himself an anarchist, he must understand the kind of anarchy he created the other day. It will not succeed in a republic. We are not a monarchy. We are not governed by a despot. We are at best governed by a government which is ineffective, which is corrupt, which is everything. But it is not a monarchy or a despot.
Let me get Shailaja Chandra. So do you think that we are judging them too early? Their inexperience, their complete lack of political experience before coming to power. All these things need to be taken into account before judging them.
Yes, I think that 1 month is certainly no time to be judging them. Secondly, I never said they're insincere. I think that is not something that I ever said. What I want to say is that it sounds very, very status quoist, and it sounds absolutely something nobody who is rebelling against all the shortcomings of government systems is going to like to hear. But we have, as Vinod just put it, we have a constitution, and within that constitution is a government. And a government has to work according to processes. There's no way that governments in a republic and in a federal structure like India, and where you have the central government and the state government in one place, can throw everything to the winds in the game of trying to appease the anger of the public. I have met a large number of people, Girish, who are from my, I would say, background, IAS retired officers, who I would have normally thought would say that this is all nonsense. It is very surprising to my ears that they said, when people have nowhere else to go, where do they go? This was the reaction I got. So, in a way, even today...
Even people like you and your ilk who has worked the government are feeling frustrated.
No, I am talking about people who have been in the government, who today are nobodies, but they know the system.
Right,
but knowing the system, they are willing to talk in his favor, saying when everything has failed, nobody is above corruption, every system is breaking, we have no one to go to, even the courts are too long and too dreary to have to get even ordinary things done. Who do you turn to? Let there be a rebel, let there be an anarchist, let there be anybody who shouts the place down. At least our anger is getting conveyed. That is one point of view. I do not belong, however, to this group, which is increasing in numbers, by the way. I mean, what you're saying, whether they're getting their membership, whether there is still that frustration, and I think that the elections are due very, very soon, which goes in his favor. If he had many more months, a lot of more things would have come to light. At this moment, when I talk to a kind of intelligentsia, they say, so what if he sat on dharna? So what if barricades were broken? So what if the police had to, beat a retreat and had to be sent on leave? So be it. This is what worries me. What worries me is not that it happened. What worries me is that people who ought to know what comes out of this kind of a situation feel is right for this country.
Let me get George Mathew. George Mathew, do you think this is a worrisome factor? What Shailaja said? Yes. That, this kind of attitude of the people that, that something is happening, even if it is anarchy, even if it is whatever it is, let it happen. The kind of concern which Shailaja Chandra expresses.
No, I look at it from a positive aspect. Has to be seen from a positive perspective. You see, here is a government, a ruling party, which came from a civil society movement to a political party, and within the shortest time governing one of the most difficult states, or the most difficult state in India, with the most complex situations like the Delhi state, which was Pushpesh has already explained the complexity of this state. And 30 days is such a short time, but I can assure you, I can tell you that from my contacts with ordinary people, their expectations, their enthusiasm is still alive, and it is very great. And I feel that this government, this political party is opening new vistas and new thinking, new options, and not only limited way, but regionally and nationally, and even globally, this is happening. And therefore, I look at it and I take it extremely positive way.
Okay, Nisha, 2 points. One is about what Shailaja Chandra talks about processes and things like that. She says that it's not being followed. You're just appeasing the anger and frustration of the people. The second thing is about what Vinod Sharma says, that your party and your government is more looking at 2014 Lok Sabha elections in mind, and all its actions are led by that target of 2014 Lok Sabha.
To the question about the point that Shailaja Chandra just raised, I think she in a way second guessed her ex-colleagues and bureaucrats like her who have now retired. In their knowledge of the system, they are realizing that unless things are shaken up and new thought and new ways of doing things are introduced into the systems, the way the governance is in our country is not going to change. This is something people in the system like her appreciate, and people outside the system, people like you and me who have who are the Aam Aadmi and not in governance directly, also realize that it's not going to be simple. These systems are so entrenched and they are so old, and that you will need somebody to question the very basis of these things. And when Arvind Kejriwal does that, there is hope that we are finally going to look towards solutions. And that's what we are trying to do as a Aam Aadmi Party. When you talk about Lok Sabha elections in 2014, this is something that was not on the party's mind when we went in for Delhi elections. We were totally focused on Delhi elections. Ever since the result, the part of the party which is now elected, the MLAs and the ministers, are completely and totally focused in delivering the promises that they had promised to the people. 2014 Lok Sabha elections became a possibility and are a reality because of two things. One is that it has proven to the entire nation that it is possible to change governments, to change politics, to do politics in an ethical, principled way.
Okay.
And so a party which tries to do that has a chance. Secondly, there is a demand from the states
from the
all
states.
around the
Okay.
country, which are where people are signing up. Yes.
So you're
yes,
responding.
signing up, and
you're
that is going to
responding-
make 2014.
You're responding only to that demand. Yes, Shailaja, Chandra, very quickly.
No, I wanted to also flag that governments have a responsibility not only to look at the manifestos and tick mark everything that they think they are achieving by making statements, but I think very serious things are happening in Delhi. Look at the ammonia levels in water. Do you know water is not being cycled and not being treated because the ammonia levels are so high? This is a problem from the Haryana end. One would like to see the Chief Minister intervening and speaking on this.
In fact, yesterday I was hearing one of the interviews of Chief Minister. He mentioned about this water problem, and he said from very soon we will not be able to depend on either Haryana or Uttar Pradesh for water. We will have to generate our own water.
How?
So there are
How?
How will I
I
do
mean,
it?
come on.
In all fairness, we can't
240%.
expect him to give solutions. Vinod, this shake-up is necessary. As Nisha says, that there was a shake-up which was necessary, and that's what we are.
It's not a Bond martini, Is it a Bond martini? As my colleague in one of the articles, Sanjay Narayan, described, that he doesn't want it stirred, he wants it shaken.
Yes. Well, people want it shaken.
No, listen. I quite appreciate
People
that
have
in a
been
democracy,
tired of
everybody
the
has
stirred one. Now they want the shaken.
everybody has a right to ambition in a democracy. Mr. Kejriwal has a right to ambition. One respects that. But what does he have to show by way of governance in order to make a bid for power at the center in Delhi? What has he shown by way of governance? I wonder whether they have the right attention span to stay on one issue. As Shailaja ji is saying, if they can revolutionize water supply, portable water supply in Delhi, or if they can make electricity affordable, just these two issues, plus the school system where people should get easy admission for their children rather than going through the trauma. I think that this would be a major plank which they can take nationally. But they haven't till now. There have been pious intentions, but there has been no forward movement worth the name on the ground.
Okay.
Though it is early days for us to pass a judgment on them, I'm willing to give them a benefit of doubt, but doubt alone won't help you in 2014.
Yeah, Nisha, very quickly, before I go to Pushpesh Pant finally, very quickly, Nisha.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, the speaker before me just said that they have nothing to show by way of governance and to stake claim on 2014. I think let the people decide. Let the
Absolutely.
people decide. 2014 is
Okay,
just
okay.
around the corner. If they are going to see the governance, is being played out thanks to the media across the nation, the governance of Delhi, and the people are going to decide
you
on
should
that.
spend more
They need to
time in
judge
the
this,
office than before
sitting in
television
office.
camera.
Very quickly, Professor Pant, very final
the
words.
problem is that Vinod is difficult to upstage Vinod this evening. From the Cuban Revolution to James Bond martinis, the mixture is a very heady one. But I think somewhere people have to stop and think that aren't people in the center creating obstacles in the path of the Aam Aadmi government?
No, that is okay. Very quickly, Professor Pant, last words. Apart from others creating obstacles, are they not creating obstacles for themselves? Are they not creating fault lines which can become difficult for them to overcome?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think they are doing a pretty successful job of deflecting criticism from their own weaknesses to the weaknesses of the people who rule Delhi, like Mr. Shinde.
Okay, I think on that note we need to end.
I agree.
We need to end this program, but this is a debate about this party and the government which will go on for some time now. We'll all keep a close watch as Everybody is watching how this party will emerge as the 2014 Lok Sabha elections comes on us. We'll wait and watch. Thanks to all my guests, Prof. Pushpesh, Pant, Shailaja, Chandra, Vinod, Sharma, George, Mathew and Nisha Singh. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue on the big picture same time tomorrow.